Alright, 7th graders, lesson 57 here. We'll be working with negative exponents and scientific notation for small numbers. In our opening part of the lesson, we read about a girl who multiplied these two numbers by each other and on her calculator, and she came up with 1.0 times 10 to the negative 12. And we want to focus on how can you get a negative. Well, to put it plainly here, maybe to review to start out, if I have 10 to the third, hopefully you remember that equals, well, you put a 1 down, and then due to the 3 up here, you put 3 zeros down. So we moved the decimal place 1, 2, 3 places. And we did it to the right. Our number got bigger because that number was a positive number. Well, in this case, we're just going to move the decimal again, but we're going to move it 12 places, and we're going to move it this direction so that the number gets smaller. And we would move it a total of 12. So when we see a negative number, don't be too intimidated. It's just like this number over here. It's just instead of our number getting bigger, now our number is going to get smaller based on that. Now we'll show a few other things here too that might help explain it a little bit more. 10 to the 6th over 10 to the 3rd. And that's a division problem, 10 to the 6th divided by 10 to the 3rd. And we know we can just subtract these two exponents here to find our answer. But we're going to show it this way. Now I've got 6 tens over 3 tens. And now these two will cancel out and become 1. These two will cancel out and become 1. These two cancel out and become 1. So I'm left with 10 times 10 times 10. That's 1,000. 1 with 3 zeros there. And down here I've got 1 times 1 times 1. That'll be 1. So I've got to simplify that. My answer is 1,000. In our next one, we've got 10 to the 5th times 10 to the 3rd. 10 times 10 times 10 times 10 times 10. 5 of them. And I've got 3 of these down here. So they cancel out and make 1 over 1. These two will cancel out and make 1 over 1. These two cancel out and make 1 over 1. So we've got 10 times 10, and that's 100. 1 times 1 times 1 is 1. So if I simplify this, my answer is 100, or 10 squared. Okay. Go on to another one here. 10 to the 4th over 10 to the 3rd. 10 times 10 times 10 times 10. 10 times 10 times 10. Alright, we can cancel some of those out here. That becomes 1 over 1. That becomes 1 over 1. That becomes 1 over 1. So I'm left with 10 over 1, which I will simplify and make it 10. And if I subtracted these two numbers, I'd have 10 over 1. Or 10 to the 1 power equals 10. So we've been keeping our denominator the same, 10 to the 3rd, and we see that our numbers are going down. What will happen when we've got a 3 over a 3? 10 to the 3rd times 10 to the 3rd. 10 cubed times 10 divided by 10 cubed. Let's take a look at that and see what happens. We've got 10 cubed over 10 cubed. 10 times 10 times 10. 10 times 10 times 10. Well, that's gonna just cancel these out. 1 over 1 over 1 equals 1 over 1, which equals 1. So that's our final answer. Now over here we do 10 to the third minus 10 to the third. 3 minus 3 is 0. So 10 to the 0 will equal 1. Now what's interesting here is that's not only true with 10. If I did 25 to the 0, if I did 4 to the 0, if I did 16 to the 0, they all will equal, when they have an exponent of 0, they will all equal 1. So this is a big thing for us to start getting used to here, to see anytime the exponent is 0, you get a 1. Well, let's keep moving on. Instead of 10 to the third, what if I did 10 squared up there and left 10 to the third on the bottom? 10 times 10, 10 times 10 times 10. Now those cancel out, make 1 over 1. Those cancel out, make 1 over 1. So I'm left with 1 over 10, or 1/10. And over here, I'll write that down there a second. Over here, 2 minus 3 is a negative 1. 0.1. So we're moving the decimal now to the left to make a number smaller. So I had a 1 and I moved it one place because my exponent was a negative 1. So I'm left with 0.1. So negative exponents, just the example that you can show there is it just means to move the decimal place. It can also be expressed as usually a fraction, and your negative 1, the 1's going to tell how many zeros are down here again, just 1. Alright, let's do another one that's a little bit similar, a little bit different. 10 over 1 divided by 10 to the third. I'll have just 1 10 up there. On the bottom I'll have all 3 10s. Cancel out. Get a 1 over 1, so I'm left with 1 over 10 times 10 is 100. And if I subtract these two, 1 minus 3 will be negative 2. So 10 to the negative 2 equals 1/100th. Again, I've got a 2 here and 2 zeros down here, but it's a fraction since I've got a negative symbol, so that's one way that we can try to point out to you kids. Take this negative symbol, put it over here, make it a fraction. The 2 will tell you, or the number here will tell you how many zeros are down there. But again, we can also review and say, well, if I had 1.0 to the negative 2, so I got to move the decimal place 2 places to the left to make it smaller. 1, 2, and that equals 0.01, or 1/100th. So that's how we deal with negative exponents. We can review here. 10 to the 0 will really equal 1 anytime you see a 0 there. 10 to the 1 will just equal 10. It stays the same. And 10 to the negative 2 will equal 1 over 100, or 1 over 10 to the negative 2. So we'll try to keep, actually not over to the negative 2, just over 2. Sorry. 10 over 2 there. And that's how we get rid of that negative exponent. We make it into a fraction here. But usually this is the way that we should be showing it right now. Alright, so let's take a look at example 1 here. A says to simplify 2 to the 0. Well, that will equal 1, because it's got a 0 as an exponent. B says 3 to the negative 2. Well, how do we get rid of that negative symbol again? Well, remember that negative symbol becomes the fraction bar. Put that right there. Our numerator will always be 1, and the denominator here will be this exact number, just minus. So 3 squared, down here 3 squared, 3 times 3 is 9. So I'll have 1/9. So this number equals 1/9. C, 10 to the negative third. Again, make the negative symbol your fraction bar over here. You'll have 10 to the third down here. You'll have a 1 up over here then. So we've gotten rid of the negative symbol over here. It started here, but it's not here. We moved it into there. And now we know I'll have 1 over, and the 3 here tells me I'll have 3 zeros after the 1. 1, 2, 3. So 1/1000th is what 10 to the negative third means. 1/1000th. Alright, you can turn the page in your book here. Talk about scientific notation with small numbers. And we start out with 2.54 times 10 to the negative 2. Remember, we talked already about how this negative 2 just means to move the decimal place 2 places to the left. So 1, 2. So now if I rewrite this, 0.0254. That's how we would write that as a decimal. We would just move the decimal place 2 places to the left. We're shifting it that many places. So as your book shows, if I would take 6.32 times 10 to the 7th, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 positive places, because this is a times and this is positive. So we'd have 632 and then 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 zeros. 3, 4, 5, comma, comma. Whereas if we did, well, maybe I'll do best to do a different color. 6.32 times 10 to the negative 7th. We move it the other way. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. So I'd have 0. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and then 632. So we've got the same digits. I get a 6 and a 3 and a 2 and a 6 and a 3 and a 2. Here we moved the decimal to the right and made the number larger because it was a positive exponent. Down here we moved the decimal to the left and made the number smaller because it was a negative exponent. Alright, let's take a look at example 2 here. 4.63 times 10 to the negative 8. Move that over here because I want to be able to move my decimal places 8. So I've got to move 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. That's where my decimal is going to go, and I'll need a 0 in front of that. So if I rewrite that, I'll have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 zeros. 0.2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and a 4, and a 6, and a 3. So again, my digits stay the same as up here, but I've moved it 8 places to the left. I've made it smaller so that we're left with this number down here as our answer. In example 3, we get to write in scientific notation. It says write 0 point, and we've got 5 zeros, 2, 3, 4, 5, and then 2 3s. Alright, so let's see what we can do here. I'm going to have to move the decimal so it ends up between the 3 and the 3, so that I can have one number in front of the decimal here like we normally do. 3.3 times 10 to the, now it's going to be negative because we want to make the number smaller, and I moved it, the decimal 1, I've got to move it 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 places, so to the negative 6. So again, if you start here, just going backwards, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, so you'd want them to put a negative 6 up here. So that's going to be our answer for example 3. That's how we make negative exponents when we have a nice big number like this. Alright, example 4, compare. Would you rather have 0, or would you rather have 1 times 10 to the negative third? Well, my decimal's right here, so I'm going to do 1, 2, 3. So 2 zeros in there, so I'll have 0 compared with 0.001. Which one is larger? Well, this is nothing. Although this is very minimal, at least it's something. So we would write 0 is less than 1/1000th, or 1 times 10 to the negative third. All right, that's it for today. You can get started on that there, 7th graders.